One of my subscribers asked me why I tend to choose Airbnb over hotel rooms when I'm traveling. Well, I realized that there were lots of reasons, enough to make an entire video about that. So here it is. Thanks, Tyler, for the nudge. When I'm planning a trip, one of the first things that I do right after figuring out where I'm going is to start looking at places to stay. And for me, that usually means searching on two apps, Airbnb and Booking.com. Over the years, I've found that in many cases, an Airbnb just suits me better than a hotel. Not always, but often. And today I want to talk about why, especially as a senior solo traveler. The first thing I look at is location, and that's true whether I'm booking a high-rise hotel or a tucked-away studio flat. I don't want to be right in the middle of the most tourist-heavy areas. I like things a little quieter and a bit more local. But I still want to be close to public transportation, ideally a short walk to a metro or a train line. I also look for places with a few restaurants or shops nearby so I don't have to go far to grab a meal or pick up something that I forgot to pack. I also like it quiet, dark, and cool to sleep well. Now this means doing a bit of homework. I'll check Google Maps to see where a place sits in the city. Then I pull up a metro map and figure out how the transport system works. YouTube videos are surprisingly helpful for that too. There's always someone who's made a guide on how to get from the airport into town or how to use the local transit system. My first goal is to avoid landing in a strange place after a long flight and realizing I have no idea how to get to where I'm going. Now, I've stayed in quite a few Airbnbs over the years, and I've never had a bad experience. That's partly because I pay close attention to reviews. If a place has consistently positive feedback, well, then I'm pretty reassured. What I like about Airbnbs is that they give me a little more space for a little less money. I can stretch out. There's usually a small sitting area, kitchenette, sometimes even a balcony. Of course, it depends on the price as well. You've got to factor in cleaning fees and Airbnb service charges, which aren't always obvious at first glance. The total can creep up if you're not careful. Still, when everything balances out, I often find that I can get a small, self-contained apartment for less than the cost of a hotel room, and in a location that feels more residential and less packaged. Let me show you an example of the Airbnb that I stayed at in Lisbon. It was a studio apartment, clean, fresh, and comfortable, and perfect for me as a solo traveler. It was a 3-minute walk away from the subway station where I could connect to any other part of the city, including the airport, the bus station to the Algarve, the train station to Sintra, and any other part of the public transport system in the city. There were local restaurants and coffee shops close by, and I could walk to the busy core of the city in about 25 minutes. There was a nice big park right across the street, with a delightful view of the rest of the city and lots of pathways to stroll. I stayed there for 4 nights, but I could have stayed for a month. The cost, including the service and cleaning fee, came to about $100 US per night, much cheaper than a downtown Lisbon hotel. And whether it's an Airbnb unit or a hotel room, I also make sure that I fully understand their cancellation policy, just in case my plans change between the time that I've made my booking and when I travel. There are also some simple comforts that I appreciate, like having a fridge for cold drinks, a microwave to heat up some leftovers, a coffee maker to start the day slowly at my own pace. I don't cook full meals when I'm traveling, but I do like to have the option of fixing a light snack to take with me when I'm walking around during the day. Many Airbnbs also come with a washing machine, which is handy if I'm traveling for a few weeks and I want to freshen up my clothes without having to look around to find a laundromat. I've also found that when I stay in a hotel, I have a tendency to use the hotel dining room for breakfast or even the occasional meal. It's sometimes the lazy choice, but it also means I miss out on exploring local restaurants, sampling regional specialties, or discovering a little cafe with great coffee and a fresh pastry in the morning. Even grabbing street fruit from a market for a midday snack can be part of the fun, and hotel dining can sometimes make me bypass that. Most places that I've stayed are keyless entry now. You get a code for the door or for a lockbox. Hosts usually check in via message on the morning that you're planning to stay, and they're quick to respond if something comes up. A few times I've even found a couple of bottles of water or some snacks or a small welcome gift waiting for me. One memorable time, a bottle of wine and a note inviting me to enjoy the sunset from the balcony. That was a nice touch. The Airbnb app is a handy way of contacting your host. If you have any questions prior to travel, need specific instructions about checking in, or have a special request or any other questions while you're staying, the host usually responds quickly and helps you to solve any of your problems. Of course, hotels do have their advantages. They're usually easier to find, bigger signs, reception desks, and someone to help if you've arrived confused or travel weary. If you like having a gym, a pool, or room service, well, that's where hotels shine. And there's a certain convenience to having someone at the front desk who can give you local tips or help you sort out a minor issue. When I'm just overnighting somewhere or I want that built-in support, I'll still opt for a hotel, especially if the price is right. Airbnbs also come in handy when I'm not traveling alone. On a couple of trips with a friend, we booked a 2-bedroom apartment with a shared kitchen, a living room. That way, we each have privacy, but we can also share meals and stories at the end of the day without being in 2 separate hotel rooms. It feels more like a home than just a stopover. Now, all of this said, I'm also aware that in some cities, short-term rentals have made things more difficult for the locals. I try to be mindful of that. Respect the community, follow the house rules, and be the kind of guest who blends in rather than disrupts. Being a responsible traveler matters, especially when we're staying in places that are in somebody's neighborhood, not just a tourist zone. So in the end, why do I often choose an Airbnb? Well, it's simple. More space, a bit more local flavor, often a better price, and a chance to live like a resident, even if it's just for a few days. A balcony overlooking a piazza, well, that's a bonus. Now, that's not to say hotels don't have their place, but if I'm staying more than a night or two and I want a bit of quiet, comfort, Airbnb tends to be my first choice. Let me know in the comments what kind of accommodation you prefer when you travel. Have you had good experiences with Airbnb, or maybe some that you'd rather forget? And if you're a senior traveler like me, figuring out how to feel at home while you're on the road, well, I've got more stories and tips coming your way. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.